everybody, and welcome to another episode of 20-somethings TV, and we are here at the round table. My name is Sean Fay Wolf.
My name is Alyssa Botello.
I'm Mason Martin.
All right, and today we are going to be having another discussion about various goings-on in the world, spanning a wide spectrum from arts to politics to other news. And we're actually going to start out today with a very interesting topic. That topic being entertainers and celebrities who have gotten themselves into hot water for bad behavior. There seems to be quite a few stories like that, and one of the most prominent right now is the story of one Mr. Michael Jackson. So why is that? Why is Michael Jackson in hot water right now?
So recently, a documentary just came out called Leaving Neverland, and it tells the accounts of these two boys, Wade Robson and James Safechuck, and how they knew Michael Jackson and hung out with him for years, but during that time, Michael Jackson sexually abused them. Now, the chaos surrounding this topic right now is whether or not companies and radio stations should be playing his music, in stores and around the world. What do you guys think? Is it acceptable? Is it okay to?
I think it's a tough decision, but it seems to be kind of a knee-jerk reaction we have as a society to kind of, once something horrible like this comes out, everyone says we need to shut them down as an artist, forget that they ever even existed, and it seems a little disingenuous because he was talented as an artist, but because you listen to him, it doesn't mean that you support pedophilia or anything like that. I don't know, I just think it's disingenuous to do that kind of a thing.
And I agree with that, but I think how our society is working today is that these companies go off of their image, they rack up money and all popularity through their image. So if they're seen playing music from somebody, that has a bad rap, that's going to give their company a bad rap, just because people are like, oh, they associate themselves with that person.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily, I think it is definitely, let's not, get this wrong. It is an understandable knee-jerk reaction to have. If you find that someone has been associated with these things, you want to distance yourself from him. But I think there are a couple of things about Michael Jackson in particular that really kind of shift the conversation. I think one of the biggest of those is that he's not alive anymore.
That's true.
And I think that you do have to treat these things differently when you think about the fact that you're comparing the legacy of a person who whatever they did in life, they can't harm anybody anymore.
Right. Take it all the bad things we did in history. Not just American history, but world history. We did terrible things, but we still forget and forgive and move on. Time's not just going to stop just because one person did something. We're never going to forget legacies.
Right.
That's true, that's true. And I think the important thing is that he can't make money off of his own music anymore. So we're not supporting him financially, and I think that's really important because he was a horrible person in that degree of, that's one of the worst things that you can do.
Yeah, and you talked about being disingenuous before.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, I'm perfectly comfortable saying that I think what Michael Jackson, did, but these accusations are obviously, terrible, some of the worst things a person can do. That doesn't mean that I'm still not going to, sing along to Billie Jean when it comes on the radio. He made a lot of really good music. And again, as someone who is no longer alive, I think that shifts the conversation. But as for someone who is alive, who has, some stuff he has to answer for, that is one Mr. Jussie Smollett. Now, Jussie Smollett is an actor on Empire, which is a popular television show, and he recently came under fire for a very strange situation he found himself in, that being that he reported an attack on him where he was found in a noose, and he said that this was a hate crime. He said that men broke into his apartment and attacked him, and that they were MAGA people. They were associated, they were right-wing extremists. But come to find out that upon further investigation, he actually staged the attacks. He actually paid the people who attack him to essentially make it look like he'd been the victim so he could claim that he'd been a victim of a hate crime. And I just think there's so many layers of this that make the story just so strange.
Yeah, and actually I'm going to correct you there. They didn't break into his apartment. He was coming home at 2 a.m. from a subway. That's what he claimed to have said, claimed to have done, and that's what he said most of the time. He's like, my story's never changed, this is what it's been, I got jumped after leaving Subway, 2 a.m. in the morning. And one thing I didn't like about the situation is that he went out publicly and said that. He's like, my story's not changing. Like, this is my story. I'm sticking by it, you know. And then his family came out and said, too, like, this was a hate crime. Like, his story's not changing. And I'm like, why do you need to say that? Like, what's the deal for saying that?
Yeah, they felt the need to really enforce, like, oh, this did happen. I promise it happened.
Right.
And I think it's just so ironic that his goal was to advance his career because he felt like he wasn't being paid enough in Empire. That was the show that he starred in that he's now been dropped from. That was his goal. He wanted to advance in his career, and he's now dropped. It had the opposite effect. You know, like, it's kind of up for him now.
And mess with the bull, you get the horns. And I think that and I think what is particularly, disgusting about this is that, if you fake an attack on yourself like that, then I feel like that's really undermines the people who actually do go through these things.
That's
like,
true.
obviously, his hate crime, may not have been real, but there are plenty of people who actually are suffering from things like that. And I think that just is taking the entire movement that you claim to stand for and just undermining it, and I think that's really despicable.
It's awful. And so we have another case where we have celebrities lying to get what they want. Operation Varsity Blues. There were about 40 very high-profile people, and two of them, Lori Loughlin of Full House and Felicity Huffman of Desperate Housewives, lied, and they paid large sums of money to get their kids into high-profile colleges. And many would argue that it's not any different from paying donations to colleges, and people are really upset. So what do we think about that?
Well, first of all, let me just say I think it is definitely good that we now have a definitive answer to which of the housewives was the most desperate.
This is true.
I think that we...
This is true.
Yeah, so that's good to have that cleared up. But on a more serious note, though, I think this is sort of, it raises an interesting question because if you really think about it, you do have these, celebrities who give these donations, and, the donations are often, framed as charity. And so I think it's interesting, like, where do you, compare the line of, donating for charity versus just, bribing to get what you want and expecting favors in return?
Right. And with that, either or, bribing or donating to a university or company or whatever it may be, I still, especially within a university, I don't think you should get special perks. I mean,
It's true.
if you're donating all that money, you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart. You're not trying to get something in return. At least how I see it as that type of person.
Yeah.
So either way, both is bad to me if you're looking to get something in return.
Yeah.
I agree. I do think with the intention of trying to get your child into school with a donation, it's immoral, but it's not as bad as what they did because what they did was illegal. The federal government is after them. And with a donation, you are helping the school, you're helping all the other children at the school. What they did was just so selfish and crazy because they could have gave a donation and kind of tried to get in that way, but
Right.
no, I agree with you too.
I think even if you're just at your most cynical, I think that the most cynical view of doing that is if you give a donation, you're looking to make yourself look good. That's and I think that's the most you should expect out of it. It's kind of like comparing when these businesses give these huge donations to presidential campaigns and then they expect favors in return. It's technically allowed, but there's definitely a disingenuous spirit to it. And there are certain laws that, prevent these things. It's kind of, there are certain gray areas in there, and I think that it's just not good.
And now, are you saying that for all people or with donations? Because I don't agree with that. Because I donate to the Cancer Society and Hasbro Children's Hospital just because I have a personal connection through that.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying there is obviously charity that is done just out of the goodness of people's hearts. I'm just saying, that's the,
In high-profile cases.
Right, in high-profile
when you
cases
have a
like
big
this.
name, yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on there. And we actually have a lot more interesting stuff going on. In fact, coming up, we're going to be discussing one of the most anticipated crossovers of the year. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick break to introduce one of our musical guests. We're going to be hearing some lovely music. So yeah, keep on watching to see that. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in a few minutes.
Never came to the beach or stood by the ocean. I never sat by the shore under the sun with my feet in the sand, but you brought me here, and I'm happy that you did, 'cause now I'm as free as birds catching the wind. I always thought I would sink, so I never swam. I never went boating, don't get how they're floating, and sometimes I get so scared of what I can't understand. But here I am, next to you. The sky is more blue in Malibu. Next to you in Malibu. Next to you. We watched the sun go down as we were walking. I'd spend the rest of my life just standing here talking. You would explain the current as I just smile, hoping that you'll stay the same and nothing will change, and it'll be us just for a while. Do they even exist? That's when I make the wish to swim away with the fish. Is it supposed to be this hot all summer long? I never would have believed you if 3 years ago you told me I'd be here writing this song. But here I am, next to you. The sky is so blue in Malibu. Next to you in Malibu. Next to you. Next to you. The sky is so blue in Malibu. Next to you. We are just like the waves that flow back and forth. Sometimes I feel like I'm drowning and you're there to save me, and I wanna thank you with all of my heart. It's a brand new start, a dream come true in Malibu. Next to you 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 in Malibu.
Hi, and welcome back to 20-somethings TV. I'm Mason Martin.
Alyssa Patello.
And I'm Matt Leake.
Matt's our special guest today because we're having a little different segment, which is we're talking about the Avengers Endgame trailer. Now, Matt, do you want to start us off talking a little bit about the trailer?
First off, trailer was amazing. I feel like the way it started with the whole flashbacks from the, when each Avenger started, and it showed a little bit of their development too. That was really cool. And then one thing that I noticed upon rewatching it There's a lot of focus on red in the middle section of it. A lot of theories going on about what does the red mean. There's some things where, oh, red is Marvel's color, so straight up, that's why we're doing the red. There's also the Reality Stone, one of the stones in the Thanos' beautiful gauntlet. It's red, and that's maybe it changed reality when he snapped. So that's why maybe all the red is, or the red just straight up means blood, because a lot of people died in the last movie. So,
and that's very interesting theories, and I can agree with that first one because I think they did do a little opening with their Marvel logo a couple of times before movies where they just had things in red. So it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for them to do that. Now, Alyssa, you're being a little quiet there. What's your deal?
All right, so I watched the trailer and it was like fine or whatever, but I really don't get the point. Like, I don't know, it just didn't make me excited at all. I'm not a huge superhero person anyways, so I was kind of like, but I just don't get it. Can you guys explain? Because I don't get this whole universe and the fascination and the standing going on here. Can you just explain?
Dude, let's start from the top. Iron Man 1.
You can't go through all of this.
I think it's the one time, it's like 24 hours plus worth of watching if you want to sit down and watch all the movies right now. Like,
but the biggest thing with this movie is how it has all these separate either single movies or spin-offs that are all coming together to make this a huge movie, and it's actually been confirmed to be at least 3 hours long.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
182 minutes is the exact, which is 3 hours and 2 minutes.
All right,
so.
you couldn't pay me to spend 3 hours of my life watching this movie. I'm sorry.
Okay, but like, you've watched Lord of the Rings.
Yes, but way better.
Those
Okay.
are 3 hours
What's
plus.
the fascination with superheroes though? What?
Superheroes are cool.
They are cool.
But
like,
these,
they're
like the whole,
superhuman.
what
haven't
even
you
is?
ever dreamed of having a different superpower? No.
No, sure, yeah, whatever.
You haven't dreamed of flying or teleporting?
Yeah, all right,
Yeah?
cool, yeah.
Are you just yanging me just to get it off?
No, I have when I was like 8.
Okay, so you're calling us a bunch of 80-year-olds then.
No, well, I don't know.
Okay, well,
Well, I'll live with that because this movie is going to be one of the biggest movies of all time. In my book, at least.
yeah, the first Avengers Infinity War, most ambitious crossover. This is just as ambitious crossover, even though half the people are dead going into it. If you didn't watch the first movie.
That's
I
true,
just spoiled
too.
it for you, but why would you even be watching a thing about the second one if you didn't watch the first one? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So.
Now, Matt, don't you have a theory about the snap?
I have a theory, yes. When Thanos snapped and like killed everyone, I theorized, and this is also from the red in the trailer, you know, Reality Stone red, that when he snapped, what it actually did, instead of just killing half the people and turning them to dust, it actually made 2 separate universes, and half the people, the ones that died in the main one, are actually in their own, and it's vice versa. You know, if you get what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I think they're gonna try to reconnect the universes, and that's how they're gonna fix it. So like Thanos' plan maybe didn't actually work the way he thought it did. We don't know, but that's just my running theory after watching the trailer and just seeing their focus on the red. So. Yeah.
All right. Now, if you don't know, Avengers Endgame is coming out April 26th. So catch out, watch it. It's coming out soon. It's going to be one of the biggest movies. Hopefully, people are going to like it.
Alyssa should watch it.
Alyssa should watch it.
After watching all the other ones, so you got like a good, like 2 weeks worth of watching.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Definitely do that.
Now, we're going to take a little break and head to an interview with our musical guest, Katie Roslanek.
Hey guys, it's LJ. Welcome to 20SomethingsTV. Today's musical guest is Katie Roslanek from Seekonk High School. What are you going to be singing for us today, Katie?
I'm going to be singing Pulled from the Addams Family, Shallow by Lady Gaga, and Malibu by Miley Cyrus.
Awesome, awesome. And how long have you been singing?
Cliche, but forever, really. But I joined like my first music group when I was 8 years old.
That's awesome. And do you plan to continue doing music for the rest of your life?
As of right now, I'm going to do musical theater as a minor in college and then see where it takes me. But I know I'll always do like community theater on the side or like singing at, you know, random spots and stuff because I enjoy it.
Awesome.
Hello and welcome back. Actually, how about, would you like to introduce us, Mason?
I'd love to. Hi. Welcome to Chili's.
Yeah, back to me. So we have part 2 of the entertainment section of our roundtable discussion. And up on the plate today, we have one J.K. Rowling, who is been in the news recently for some very interesting reasons. And to describe what those reasons are, I'd like to ask our new guest.
LJ. Okay, so here's the deal. We're gonna sip the tea. Because J.K. Rowling, I have diagnosed the Fantastic Beasts is a case of really bad prequels, as in the Lord of the Rings trilogy had horrible prequels, as did Star Wars. And also, this is a prime time case of gay baiting, which is why we're here. Because J.K. Rowling in 2007 said that Dumbledore was gay. And in 2007, this was a really big victory for the gay community because only Massachusetts had gay marriage legalized. But now it's 2019, and even though she said he was gay, there is no evidence. We have not seen anything gay. There is nothing. There is nothing. And you just cast this new movie. You have Johnny Depp, you have Jude Law, and still there is no physical contact? And she's saying these things in these interviews like, yeah, he was gay, and it was a sexual relationship, but it was more of a sexual relationship of the mind. It was like, just, if you're gonna say they're gay, give us something gay. It's like in Supernatural, it's just gay baiting. They have hints of gay, but nothing gay really happens, and I'm ready for the gay stuff.
All right, well, let me just say that one thing I will mention about that is, that, you know, it was confirmed outside of the book. This was confirmed in an interview, and there was nothing in the book pertaining to this, which is understandable because there was no reason to talk about Dumbledore's relationships in the book. But what I think is very interesting about this is that now you have, this new movie, this prequel, which shows the scene, the relationship that Rowling was referring to. And I think it's interesting is that she is actually involved in the production of this movie. And so I think it is very interesting that they chose to omit that interpretation, because it's her interpretation of her characters.
Now, here's my whole thing with it. LJ, I'm with you. Gay pride all the way. But when this movie took place, in the time period of Crimes of Grindelwald, it's not 2019. I don't know the exact year, but it was earlier in our timeline. People aren't just coming out as gay, nor would they come and show a sexual relationship. So I understand from that aspect. It wouldn't make sense in the story setting if Dumbledore and Grindelwald told or showed that they were gay for each other.
Yeah, I think that is a very interesting angle that I actually didn't think about before, because you definitely get wrapped up in all of this. You see this, and I think that's a very interesting that's just a very interesting read of it, I think.
I'm just on the page. If you're gonna say they're gay, 12 years later, there should be some kind of gayness involved.
And I agree with that, but maybe this movie wasn't the time for it. What if they do a sort of spin-off?
The adult version.
We're not going to go too adult, but maybe there will be a spin-off of their love relationship. It's going to be something different than we've seen from the Harry Potter series, but it could be possible.
Well, I can't wait for the gayer Harry Potter to come out.
Nor can I. We actually do have another segment coming up where we're going to be talking about some slightly more somber news. But before that, we do have one more musical segment before that. So let's just go to that and listen to some fine music.
I don't have a sunny disposition. I'm not known for being too amused. My demeanor's locked in one position. See my face, I'm enthused. Suddenly, however, I've been puzzled. Bunny rabbits make me want to cry. All my inhibitions have been muzzled, and I think I know why. I'm being pulled in a new direction, but I think I like it. I think I like it. I'm being pulled in a new direction. Through my painful pursuit, somehow birdies took root. All the things I detested, impossibly cute. Gosh, what do I do? Mother always said be kind to strangers, but she doesn't know what they destroy. I can feel the clear and present dangers when she learns that the boy has got me pulled in a new direction. But I think I like it. I think I like it. I'm being pulled in a new direction. Tried, but I can't let it go. It's disgustingly true. Pulled. Puppy dogs with droopy faces, unicorns with dancing mice, sunrise in wide open spaces, Disney World, I'll go there twice. Butterflies with picnic lunches, bunches of chrysanthemums, lollipops, pillow fights, Christmas Eve, sugar plums, string quartets and chia pets, afternoon banana splits, angels watching as I sleep. Liberace's greatest hits have got me pulled in a new direction. If they keep insisting, I'll stop resisting. Just watch me pulled in a new direction. I should stay in the dark, not obey every spark. But the boy has a bite better far than his bark. And you bet I'll bite too. Do what's truly taboo. As I pulled in the new direction.
And welcome back to our final roundtable discussion of the night. To close out the evening, we have a kind of heavy subject to talk about, but also something which is very important and a talk that very much needs to be had. We are going to be looking down south at the country of New Zealand. New Zealand, as I'm sure you know, has recently been the site of the worst mass shooting in their history. It took place at a mosque, and it was just a anti-Muslim extremist who went in there and, committed the atrocity. And it was really, obviously this is a tragedy, and the people have been reacting to it in different ways all over the world. But something very interesting has happened recently. There's been a very recent development in that story that we'd really like to talk about. What is that?
You're right, and it just came out today as I was looking up information for this topic. The Prime Minister of New Zealand, forgive me, I don't know her name, but she has just issued a royal commission, which is their highest investigation there in New Zealand. And what they want to look into is how this act of terrorism could have happened and what could they have done to stop it. So that's a huge thing, and this shooting just happened. Not only that, but it took her a day to ban guns.
So they've had a very different reaction to what we would have had in the U.S. if this happened here, and we obviously know that because we've had so many awful things like this happen with mass shootings. And so the gunman had a military-style weapon, and they just took a day, and we still haven't made any changes to our gun laws. And I think that's a huge thing in that is the Second Amendment, which they don't really have an equivalent to that. So I think that's something that's kind of holding us back, but a lot of people think that that's a freedom. So there's this kind of divide between people who think it's freedom and people think that it's holding us back from having safety.
And it's tough that way because there are a ton of accounts, just from this year of shootings, but we might not hear about them because they just become so common in America today. In New Zealand, it's this world news that happened.
Yeah. And I think that, everyone brings up the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms, but I think a lot of people, particularly in favor of the guns, they either ignore or, kind of push under the rug the fact that the words well regulated are right there in the amendment. So the entire thing about, having, stricter laws, the idea of well-regulated is to maintain, the guns in such a way, or, gun culture in such a way that it's manageable. And I think what we have right now in the United States is just not manageable.
Now, let me ask you guys something. If there's something you could do about the Second Amendment, what would your guys' thoughts would be to change it? How would you change it? Would you want to take it out completely?
I personally don't think we should take it out completely. I think it does offer us some sort of security, having the right to bear arms, and a lot of people would agree with that. But I do think that it should be changed because obviously we have a problem here. It keeps happening. If it keeps happening, there's a problem. We need to do something, more regulation, something.
Yeah, I don't pretend to be an expert on this topic, but the way I look at it, I think that it should be handled in a similar way to a driver's license. I think there should be, in order to operate a gun, you should need a license for that. That is an example of, well-regulated. And there should be a record of who has them and, where they come from. I think you need a license to drive a car around. You should need a license to own a stick that you can point at someone to kill them. It's just, I think that's common sense.
You do need a license to hold a gun.
Okay, well, you need a license to hold a gun, but I mean, the gun licenses, there's no it does exist in certain places, but there's no
in some states, it's
standard.
relatively easy to get that license, and I think that's what a lot of people are debating against.
Yeah, it's like you need a license to own a gun, but you don't need a license to, fire a gun and exercise that. And I just think if you had a more centralized program there that really, that really took care of that, I think that would be a more, I just think that would help out a lot. So, yeah, I think that's very interesting how they're reacting to that in New Zealand. And before we go, we do want to give a quick little shout out to one particular figure who has emerged from this whole ordeal, and that would be one Mr.
Egg Boy.
If you know, then you know. And with that, I believe that we are about ready to wrap up this roundtable discussion. I hope that you guys have enjoyed sitting here with us and listening to these discussions. I'd like to give a very special thank you to our guest panelists, Matt and LJ. We've had some great conversations here today, and I've had a lot of fun. How about you guys?
Yeah, it's been awesome.
All right, so thank you guys for tuning in. We are going to play you guys out with one last musical segment from our guest, and we'll leave you with that. Until then, we will see you guys next time. This has been 20Somethings TV. Over and out.
Tell me something, girl. Are you happy in this modern world? Or do you need more? Is there something else you're searching for? I'm falling. In all the good times I find myself longing for change, and in the bad times I fear myself. Tell me something, boy. Aren't you tired trying to fill that void? Or do you need more? Ain't it hard keeping it so hardcore? I'm falling. In all the good times I find myself longing for change, and in the bad times I fear myself. I'm off the deep end, watch as I dive in. I'll never meet the ground. shallow, in the shallow. We're far from the shallow